Viswanathan, recognized scholars, and inclusive innovation contributing significantly to our research and practice that empowers communities and entrepreneurs in the economies. I now request Professor Madhu Viswanathan to kindly deliver the keynote address.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be online. The only thing I would have loved more was if I were there in person. I will share my screen and I will try to stick to the time that you have kindly given me. Do let me know if there are any issues with audio, but I just wanted to start actually with showing you a couple of things. One of them is just some of the 360 video we have produced that we use in our work, and this is
और मैं रिक्शा चलाते हैं। ये शहर है नोएडा, हम रहते हैं सेक्टर 5 में। मेरा गांव है यूपी में, जिला शाहजहांपुर। यहाँ से लमसम पड़ेगा 300-350 किलोमीटर मान लीजिए।
So this is just one example. I'll give you another example, and this is these are things we have produced over almost a decade and a half. This is a woman cooking in a hut in a Maasai community in Tanzania, and these are the kinds of educational experiences that we have created. And today I want to tell you a story, and I hope that that story is also about grassroots and frugal innovation. It's just, again, wonderful to be there. And I really hope to visit in person. Very briefly, this is a bit of my journey, and I just want to emphasize how I've been very fortunate. It involves both my left brain and my right brain, both IQ and EQ, I hope. And that's really been the essence of my story that I'm going to tell you. Many years ago, I felt that so much of our work is focused on people of middle or higher income or of companies that have some level of resources. So I decided to look at people living with low income, whether it's extreme poverty or low income at the intersection of lower middle income, and I called it subsistence. And I wanted to look at them in their own right, not because they are markets. And that's why I call them marketplaces rather than markets. I wanted to study them inside out, and this led to my creating this space called Subsistence Marketplaces, which is highly complementary with other approaches such as the base of the pyramid approach or macroeconomic approaches. But we start at the micro level. We start by understanding how people think, feel, relate, function as consumers and entrepreneurs. Much of humanity does business, and we need to be studying it in their own right as business professors, and that was my goal. You'll already see covers of a number of my bestsellers. I often joke they're just bestsellers within my family, but if you look at the bottom left there, you see an iceberg that is upside down. That's a cover from one of my books, and the idea there is if you are bottom up, you will see much of the iceberg potentially, and you may be able to create a momentum there as well. Our entire work has been based on the generosity of people who've shared their voices. These are voices previously unheard across several continents and, of course, in India as well. So the whole idea of this approach is if we start at that bottom level of subsistence consumers and entrepreneurs and move up from there into thinking about enterprises and ecosystems, marketplaces and product development, and finally, business models and sustainable development, that is a new way to provide insights that are grounded in reality and that are a nice counterpoint to the top down, not better than. It is merely for me a dance between the bottom up and the top down. And my only claim is that bottom up is neglected and often very difficult to do, and particularly neglected in contexts of which we are not familiar, unfamiliar contexts like lower income and so on. These are the places I have been so fortunate to be at. I can tell you that if you gave me a chance, I would any day like to sit down with a group of women anywhere across the world, low-income women who hold the social fabric of society together. On the top left, you see us in Tamil Nadu in South India, where we ended up with our Marketplace Literacy program of reaching more than 1 lakh women. And you see me talking to a group of women. The lady to my right looking at me mockingly is my wife. She does some amazing work in Champaign, Illinois with people of low income. And then on the top right, we used to have these, our marketplace literacy program delivered. And I would often, when I couldn't join in person, I would join on Skype. And you see that again, that is in Tamil Nadu as well. And the top left of that picture is my wonderful mother who turned 90 and actually has difficulty with words. But recently I told her, here's something I want to give to for a girls' school somewhere. And barely forming words, she said, take it from my pension. So she's an amazing human being who taught me at a very young age that to give is to get. The bottom left is a Maasai community in Tanzania, and you can see this is where we do our teaching sometimes. We've reached 10,000 Maasai women through marketplace literacy in the entire Arusha region, and the bottom right is a refugee settlement in Tanzania. We have had dedicated field teams who are really community workers in different parts of the world, and that's how we've gone about it. I want to point out very briefly that when after marketplace literacy, I would ask the women, "What did you learn?" And people will say, "I'm going to buy, I'm going to check prices. I'm going to take over buying from my husband, and so on. And I'm going to check MRP in India." And we would say, "Why didn't you do this 3 days before?" That's what I would ask them. And one woman gave me a great answer. She said, "I never thought of myself as a customer. I thought of myself as somebody who buys, and here's somebody who sells." We take the words we use for granted. That is how we have unpacked poverty in a very unique way. It is not just material resources. It is a lack of education, the lack of literacy, the lack of exposure, the lack of access, the lack of buying experience, which leads people to think that, look, I buy, somebody sells, rather than the very rich notion of a customer with the decision making and the skills and the self-confidence and the awareness of rights. We take the words we use for granted. That's the one thing I want to leave you with. We have worked through marketplace literacy in a variety of ways. In Tamil Nadu, we were involved thanks to a very good partner who made a movie, and we incorporated a lot of scenes into the movie. And then we used 14 video-based lessons to scale it. In Mexico, we've used a video-based program and so on. And then the pandemic hit. And I was very frustrated because we were bringing women together and I needed to come up with a different approach. And I started with narrated image diaries of low bandwidth, which are bottom up and focus on the know why. The fundamental difference between marketplace literacy and any other program that I saw 25 years ago is we don't necessarily start with what to buy or sell, like livelihood training, which is very important. We don't even focus or start with the how to keep accounts. We start with the why. Why should I be a good customer? Why should I seek value? Why should I choose this business? Why should I be customer oriented when I run a business, and so on. And secondly, we are bottom up. We don't lecture. We create these clips, we create these scenarios, we have people use their own experience to discuss it. That is how we stitch together some concepts in a very understandable way. So we are very bottom up. We have created now this content, which I believe we have about 1,200 digital clips. We have about 50,000 views, and I joke that of those 49,000 views are mine. But we have content on consumer literacy, entrepreneurial literacy, sustainability literacy, online marketplace literacy, vocational marketplace literacy, more about directions people can go in life. We have it in the form now of image diaries. We have also animations, doodle video, and so on. And we have it in about 5 languages currently, about at least, I think, 200 digital clips per language: Hindi, Swahili, Spanish, English, and French. And we have some in Telugu as well. Our most recent work is in Chhattisgarh. I have made 4 trips to Chhattisgarh in the last year and a half, and I've had the privilege of training women's self-help group leaders to be facilitators of our program. And this almost 900 of them have been trained, and one NGO has about 100 women who have now taken this training to 20,000 women with a plan to reach more than 50,000 women this year. When I say reach, it means it's a 4 to 6 hour program in villages. where everybody uses these videos. We show them, they discuss it, and we are already finding that basically people become better customers, and some of them start or get the self-confidence to start a business. And what they tell us, I was just in a very small village called Vishnupur, and they tell us, अभी मुझे ग्राहक का मतलब समझा मैंने, अभी मैंने समझा, meaning I understood the meaning of the word customer only now, and so that's where we want to start. We are just the first layer of the onion, but I'm so excited. We've been, I think I myself may have been in half the districts in Chhattisgarh in the last year and a half, thanks to IIT Bhilai and a number of partners there. So we have also created not only education for communities, but education for our students. I've been very fortunate. I've myself had 15,000 campus students and 25,000 MOOC or online learners around the world. I have taken 500 students to India. I've taken them across the world to other places and given them this bottom-up experience. We've done 13 years of year-long projects, 55 projects with large companies, startups, all cross-campus interdisciplinary classes. We have created digital content, just as I showed you earlier, day-in-the-life videos, poverty simulation, recorded interviews, immersion exercises. My own videos are often professionally available and so on. And so we are at a place where we can literally help plug and play so that this can be adopted by other universities as well. So my approach is not action research. My approach is symbiotic academic social enterprise. And the idea, the what is understanding subsistence marketplaces, creating education for them and education about them. But the key difference between us and action research is we are about sustained immersion. And we believe in a mutually enriching loop between research, education, and practice. This is not a one-way direction from research to practice. I can give you countless examples of going to practice and coming back and learning and so on. I just wanted to say very quickly that I was the least qualified to have started this work because I remember the first house I was in Bombay in the early 60s, a railway quarters, and I grew up middle class and higher. And so if I were to describe a typical day, the way I would describe subsistence to anybody is, first of all, not assume that everybody grew up middle class or higher, but I would describe in terms of the certainty and the margin of error that I live with every day. Even today, I knew I had 2 alarm clocks. I knew when to get up. I got my filter coffee. That's important for us in South India, and so on. And and everything works for me on a typical day. Whereas if you take away my certainty, and you take away my margin of error, you have poverty. I don't know where my next meal is going to come from. I don't know if I'll have the water to cook it in. I don't know if I have cooking fuel. And if I don't have any of those, I basically starve. That's my best way of describing subsistence to you. As I already mentioned, we have looked at how people think. We take the words we use for granted. We also have looked at how people think pictographically. For example, there are people who can think and add without knowing how to add by visualizing currency bills as they buy things and so on. Similarly, we have unpacked how they feel. These are all the content we have. We are very, very happy to share it with you and work with you to be able to use it. What we do is not design thinking. It is not human-centric design. It is bottom-up design, where we have a number of ways in which we start bottom-up, and then we have a number of different exercises. We actually are ideally suited for AI because we can use AI in a number of ways for immersion. So I'll be brief, but bottom-up design is about is unpacking a need. It's about the holistic design, evolution of implementation, and it has a number of basic principles in which we are different. We don't just focus on the customer. We focus on the community and the larger context. Secondly, we are always bottom-up before top-down. Whether in unpacking the need, we let the stimuli come to us rather than look at needs as told to us or given to us or as we see outside. Same with generating ideas and so on. And I'm very happy to share this as well with you about how we have done this. And I would argue that it is fundamentally grassroots, whether it is in outside entities designing or in grassroots communities, as I described with marketplace literacy. And it is really a different way of getting at frugal. We don't necessarily start with viability at the beginning because we believe creativity can bring in the frugal aspect. as the process goes through. But these are some of the things we do. We have laid it out in a variety of different modalities rather than just writing about it in one form or the other. And we also have this notion of bottom-up enterprise that we talk about. Some very important lessons. I've been very fortunate to create these playgrounds. I really feel I'm at the intersection of amazing places. And I would argue that what translates here is the researcher as much as the research. So, they say if you build it, and I would say if you build it and you basically meet people 90% of the way and you show them how to do something, then maybe some people will come. And finally, I just want to point out this is about an enriching loop between research, practice, and education. That's how we go about it. All our content is here. The left is an AI-generated image, and the right is thank you in many different languages, including, I'm sure, three that you may recognize. But that is really what I wanted to summarize and say. I will say this, you have no need to invite me, but I will say this, there is one reason why I go anywhere, and that is if there is a roadmap where I can train facilitators to take marketplace literacy forward. If that roadmap is there where I can go to a place and train a large number of women, as I've done in Chhattisgarh, I will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Madhubalan, for such an insightful and thought-provoking keynote. We also have Professor S.P. Raj, Center Director from Earl V. Snyder Innovation Management Center, Syracuse University, USA. We couldn't listen to you in the morning. Now we got lucky to have you online. Would you like to share a few words with the audience? Sir, am I audible?
Raj? Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Good.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Raj, they wanted a few words from you.
Oh, no. That's not why I signed on. I signed on to be able to listen to you. That's the main reason. This is like a student who was sleeping. But anyway, you caught me. So anyway, welcome to everybody, and thank you so much. I think we specially invited Dr. Viswanathan, Madhu, as he is popularly known, for the very unusual work he is doing. And it's unusual because most professors of business are busy trying to help big corporates make even more money, which is important, trickle down. But he's hoping to trickle up, so to speak. And I think that's a very important thing, especially in emerging economies like India and various parts of Africa and so on. So thank you very much, Madhu.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Sir, do you have any questions regarding this conference? Oh. Sir, I request the audience to ask any questions if you have.
Sure.
Yeah. Professor Viswanathan, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. And it was so simple presentation, but very, very effective presentation. And I must say that when I was hearing you, I was feeling jealous of you. Reason being that, here many of my colleagues are sitting, we are academicians here. Yes, we teach, we are supposed to teach research also. But one part which is missing from our institution is the practice, actually. sometime to satisfy ourselves, we send our students for immersion program or for some outreach programs, and then we evaluate them. But the point is that we are doing it with our students, and over the years of time, the last 1 decade or so, the experiential learning has got a lot actually, where students spend good amount of time, say out of 2 year program or 3 year program, they spend maybe 10% time traveling outside. And I remember when I was teaching at IIM Kozhikode from 98 onwards, and I think I used to ensure that my students, they travel outside, go to the rural side and on sustainability subject, bring those experience to the class. And I think maybe out of 1,000 students, I could have made a difference to 1 or 2 students. But at the same time, me as a teacher, actually, I want to be a practitioner also. But my system has never allowed me, because I was bogged down by so much of teaching requirement, research requirement, executive education. And this is one part which is missing in general, I say, from the Indian institutions. There are very, very few professors actually in the country, I can count on my fingers, who are good teacher, good researcher, and good practitioner also. And that's a very, very small population. And how is that system we can improve? And, I wish the system which you are having, you are a professor also with the university, and at the same time, you are associated with the foundation also. So how it is possible at your end, actually? I'm sure that system is so flexible there.
Thank you, sir. Such generous words, and that's why I said I wish I could be there in person. I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to all the institutions, and I consider myself an Indian, East African, Latin American. So much to India and the U.S. and several other countries. I also owe it to a lot of institutions, but I would also say that I don't think academics is any different anywhere in the world. If anything, I would say that it is a bit more practice oriented in India than it can be in some universities elsewhere. We are very compartmentalized, and we are very good at doing a few things extremely well, which would be certainly to say that here's the research and I'm going to work back from these journals, which is in fact a little bit unfortunate, because in many ways to me that too can be bottom up and discovery oriented. But on the other hand, with education, we have very good teachers, but on certain, and we have some specificity. So I just felt on the education side, we don't integrate across. And by that, I mean integrate across culture, across socioeconomic status, across disciplines. And that is why I started this year-long course. Similarly, I feel like when I started this work, it was almost like I kept saying, I used to study how people use numbers and words, and I kept saying aloud, half the people don't use it. And then I decided I'm going to do this, I'm going to start this work. So I went for training as a tutor at an adult education center. But I said to myself, I don't care if I write half a page or 1 page. What I learn should reach the people. And then, of course, a lot of these things. So I will say that, on the one hand, it's really that I was able to learn to crawl and walk in India and in the US, and then run, and then certainly I need to fly on my own. And that is certainly something I can do because I had the foundations from India and the US to be able to do that. So I certainly owe that, and that's all I ask for. I will just say one more thing, sir, which is that there was a woman I remember in our first training, perhaps in Chennai, who stood up and said, thank you for doing this for over the last 5 days, but why are you there and not here? Meaning, why are you in the US and not in India? And I said, I'm here because I'm there. Meaning that I have to always be grateful to the foundation that I got that enabled me to fly back home. And believe it or not, we were working in about 200 villages, which were not very far from my father's native village and my mother's native town in Tamil Nadu. And today, then coming to Chhattisgarh, it is so amazing. For me, it is speaking Hindi and teaching in Hindi after 40 years of not getting the opportunity to speak in it. And I teach for 2 days, and मैं ऐसा भी करता हूँ कि एक शब्द भी मैं अंग्रेजी में मैं नहीं कहता हूँ. So when I'm teaching, I don't even use a word of English. Sometimes. So it is really. You are right, sir, that I'm the luckiest person, and I'm so grateful for it, for being able to do I'm also the most enriched person. I've learned so much from women and youth and everybody. But I would also say I'm also one of the most frustrated people because I feel like we have something that can help people in a small way. Women take this little and make so much out of it and amplify it and change their lives. And I wish I could reach a lot more people, sir. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any more question?
I just want to make one quick comment in response to what Dr. Ballooni said, namely, I think, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Raj.
Sure,
Yeah. Namely, I think what Madhu failed to say in an abundance of humility is that he has taken a lot of risks. This trajectory that he took is not the traditional trajectory. And if you, I guess, if you don't innovate and if you don't take risks, I guess you do have a comfortable life, academically speaking. So that is an important part of this. The other aspect I want to say is, and there must be many others in the audience, but I can see Professor Jaiswal there in front. So one of the things that I am envious of him sitting here in the US is not all business schools in the US are open to the idea of developing case studies, but case studies are one way in which, in effect, you're bridging academia with industry through the venue of educating students. So it turns out to be a good way to bridge that, so long as traditional research is also part of the menu, so to speak. So anyway, I just wanted to add that one small idea to what Dr. Ballooni said.
Sure, Madhu, thank you very much for nice presentations. I'm Dhruva Gautam from Midwest University, Nepal. So it is not a question, so just I would like to listen from you. One issue in higher education, so as you mentioned very well, the research and knowledge creations, and then after the knowledge and capacity building, as well as the practice and social impact. These relationship and sequences are well articulated. Thanks once again. But later days, nowadays, we see in some of the universities, even in South Asia, the university professors or faculties are going to be demarcated or make a grouping as professor by practice, professor by teacher, and professor by research. Even this is professor by research, and no teaching load to the research professors is increasing. In these situations, one person is doing research and become the research by professor, whereas in the classroom, the teachers who teach every day is not engaged to the research. In this situation, if it is going to be increased, the flow that you developed well, I think so. So how it is to be managed, and what you suggest to the higher education institutions or the government regarding these, the teachers who engage in the teaching and research should be the same persons in order to give the meaningful impact, I think so. So I just would like to listen from your argument on these issues.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm really honored to even be asked this question, to be honest, because mine is a certain experience. I will just say this, and this is not in any way self-serving. I don't think I have had the struggles of one day in the life of somebody I have studied, even if I look across many decades, nothing like that. But nevertheless, my goal in sharing my journey, and I hope to share it in person as well, is that, I don't think that this is a path that is sustainable for the typical, faculty person, whether they're teachers or researchers. So my goal in also setting this up and sharing it is how can others navigate this path without necessarily going through all of these steps? And that is why I tell junior scholars, reach out. We will enable things for you. We'll enable your research. We will bring this into the classroom. So we do worldwide webinars where we share our content and show people, and we make it plug and play so others can use it. And I also talk about how to integrate with social impact and so on. So we try to reach people in that very small way as well. I really believe that at one level it's the disciplines, and you can see more and more at the discipline level that people, are realizing that they really have to be more relevant along with being rigorous. You see that to some degree. You see more and more of the types of special issues and so on. But I don't think it goes far enough. I think that one also at the education level, one has to, for example, if you take an academic institution in the US, we have to bring in this issue of show us your relevance rather than just look at resumes and say, here are the 4 papers you published, and I'm going to count that and move on. What are we afraid of? We can read somebody's research packet. We can give them broader latitude. We can help them to make the case for how they are moving towards relevance in a variety of different forms. Beyond, I would argue, whether somebody reported what you did in the media. To me, that's a starting point. To me, citations are just a starting point. They are also quite, kind of internal in many ways, citation. But I do believe institutions, other than incorporating some of these elements into the incentive system, sir, I would argue that there is a need for the right type of institutional liaison people who understand both the academic side, they understand the researchers, they understand the teachers, and they understand the real world, and they navigate back and forth and meet the researcher halfway, meet the educator halfway. I think there's a tremendous need for somebody who's a liaison team that works with the faculty and then connects them to the real world in a variety of different ways. That would make it much simpler than, in my case, of course, I was wandering around, and I wouldn't trade a minute of what I did. Although there were lots of dark side and negatives as well. But I was wandering around trying to create this for myself. I think it can be brought a little closer to academics. I would still want that researcher. I do believe that if you're a really good researcher, that should translate to the classroom. So I'm kind of not, it's not appealing to me that if you're a great researcher, that means you don't teach. I mean, that to me is a contradiction. But I think that, there are ways in which we could create institutional structures that would help the academic. Because academics are doing so many things. When you're doing 100 things, doing 150 is not the answer. But I think there are a couple of things. Some are at the discipline level, or the macro level, but some are, I think, at the institution level as well. And I think it pays off because then it increases relevance. In fact, if anything, it's a unique form of advantage that an organization could have. I was just, in Bastar, and basically there were 400 women, the poorest of women from 7 districts, who came to my training for 2.5 days. And it was amazing to see what they did. It was amazing to see the university and what they did with the faculty to organize all of this, and how they are thinking about how do we incorporate the learning here. Again, as I said, and of course you don't have to invite me, but if you can give me that social impact pathway for Marketplace, let's see, whoever it is, I would love to be invited. And along with that, we could also think about, how to incorporate it with social impact with the classroom and so on. So talk about really begging for an invitation, but I will be happy to beg if there can be impact. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. A very good evening, sir. So you very well articulated about the market literacy. So I have a very simple question, like how you see the transition of modern consumerism and then the traditional consumerism, and then talking about before pandemic and after pandemic. How?
I think, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. How this transition has changed when you're talking about before pandemic and after pandemic, the modern consumerism and the traditional consumerism.
Yeah, I think, two brief answers for that. One is that, somebody told me, you're studying things the way they were 100 years ago. Yes and no. I think the consumer today sees that, but also sees the ability to access and so on, and in a variety of different forms. And this has been going on for 20, 25 years. I mean, we remember as cell phones were being introduced, the innovativeness of the subsistence consumer and entrepreneur, where the number of rings would be to close a deal or to say no. So one ring would be, yes, I agree to your price. Two rings means I won't. And, missed calls were used and phone switched off was used. So many ways in which people innovate. So, but they're combining the old with the new, right? And so today they're also able to see how others live and so on. And there is that relative form of inequality. So that is on one side as well. I think the amazing thing going on in India is the ability for digital payment. But right now, what we find, if you don't mind me connecting it back to what we do, is we have, so let us say, self-help groups. We have cooperatives of self-help groups in Chhattisgarh and other places. We have, they have livelihood training if they are lucky. They have microloans if they are lucky. They have products. They have superbly packaged products. They have off-the-shelf packaging. No marketing is what they'll say. And what we understand that is that to begin with, I should understand why I chose a product. Okay, I'm willing to buy dhania from the jungles in Chhattisgarh, but why should I buy a handbag? So they need to understand that. The second piece is, there's a wonderful song, I think it was sung by Mahendra Kapoor, Nadia ka pani darya se milke sagar ke or chale. I'm not going to even try to sing it, but what I used that line to tell the women that you still end up selling to each other. And that is why what we did is we brought in partners of ONDC to several of our sessions in Chhattisgarh with the hope that these cooperatives also will work with, figuring out, some form of, identity and branding and so on. And so that's the other piece to it. I think what's happening in India is absolutely cutting edge in terms of digital payments for people living in the broad range of low income. So that's just one thing I just wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. So I would again extend my thanks to our keynote speaker, Professor Madhu Viswanathan, for his insightful address, and also extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to Professor S.P. Raj for joining us virtually, as we could not have him here in the morning. So thank you, Professor. And moving ahead, we have our cultural program. Yes, sir. Sir, please.
No, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you.